Hello everyone, and welcome back to Code Veronica. So we're going to continue where we left off in the last video. We found the crane key, and so now we can finally use it over here and get Nosferatu's body out from under the ice.
Who could have done this? Alexia?
That is how I dispose of insignificant bugs, said the spider to the fly. How do you wish to die?
So I really like Resident Evil Code Veronica. I think that it's really fun, and I can see why it is one of the fan favorites for a lot of people. Like, if this was their first entry into a Resident Evil game, like, it's a fun entry, and that would make them want to explore the other games so that they could get the full scope of the story. But it can be frustrating at times because there are a lot of moving parts in terms of puzzles that require like a ton of different items and item space. And yes, Resident Evil 1 and 2 and 3 have that same thing, but it's not to the point of Resident Evil Code Veronica where it's like you need to have at least 4 spaces open at all times. But if you run low on ammo like I do, I don't have 4 spaces open at all times. I'm usually like, well, I guess I gotta bring alternative guns because I don't have enough handgun ammo. But that's all me. Otherwise, it's a fun game. Some things that I really wish we kind of got a little bit more expansion on is that I really want an expansion to Steve's story. Like, he tells us the backstory about what happened, but I kind of want a little bit more from him in terms of, instead of having him just like, okay, Claire, I told you my sad backstory. I'm going to sit here for like an hour and then I'm going to peace out and I will see you in the airport, you know? Like, I really wish that he would stick around a little bit more and that there was more dialogue between both Claire and Steve. But that just might be modern Resident Evil brain for me because, like, you get partners in Resident Evil 6, and Jake and Sherry are always talking to each other. Leon and Helena are always talking to each other. Chris and Piers are talking to each other. So it's just kind of like, I really wish that we had more of that, but I understand that there wasn't really a way to do that in the older Resident Evil games until after Resident Evil 4, you know? Now that we've placed Alfred and Alexander's jewels into the painting, per the note left by Alfred, we can take a small little look around. There really isn't much in here. There was like a knife on this landing up here, but this is pretty much empty, which tells me it's a boss room.
Claire.
Chris! I missed you so much.
I know. But we have to get out of here.
Not yet. We have to find Steve.
Who's Steve?
He's a boy who escaped from that island with me. But then a monster attacked us and we got separated.
So that means Steve is still somewhere in this base?
I'm sure of it.
Claire? What's wrong?
I think I've been poisoned.
Just hold on. I'll be right back.
I had a feeling that I had to go back and get the anti-venom because I got hit by the poison multiple times during that boss fight. And while it did put me in danger, I didn't see the status effect for poison because after you defeat Nosferatu, it immediately puts you into like a cutscene where you grab Steve and you get back into the snowcat and you escape. So I had a feeling that I would have to basically do this. But at least, you know, the room isn't very far. We just need to go back up the elevator, down this hallway, and into this room, and then just down the elevator. I know whether Claire is poisoned or not is because of if-then code within the game, where basically it's like, if Claire is poisoned, like her status is poisoned, then serum. If Claire is not poisoned, her status is, you know, clear, then no serum. But that's no fun. Theories are fun. So this is my theory. So my theory is that for the serum, Alexia, because like in 15 years, the serum probably degraded. So she made a new batch before she confronted her father. And I think that as Claire, we didn't kill him. I think we just knocked him down. And so like Birkin, he's got another mutation in him. We just knocked him down temporarily. So in preparation for her fight with her father, she creates a serum just in case his poison affects her. And then because she doesn't end up getting poisoned by her father, she puts it down here in the warehouse for later.
Claire, I'll take care of you now. Feeling better?
Thanks to you. Just like a big brother, huh? You're always looking out for your little sister.
It's Alexia!
Alexia? There really is an Alexia?
It is almost time, you genetically inferior siblings.
After her! She might know where Steve is.
Let's go.
Chris!
No! Just go. I'll be fine.
But Chris...
You've got to save Steve. Go!
I think it's really interesting, but also sad that Alexia thinks that genetically inferior siblings is an insult. Because if she were to say that to somebody, they'd be like, okay. They wouldn't have the reaction that she would think that they would have, which is sad because her and her brother didn't have a normal, like, childhood. It was all wrapped up in genetic experiments. And then, you know, them being more intelligent than other children their age, they were only mostly interacting with adults. But the only adults that they had access to outside of their father were other researchers in the umbrella company. And I don't think I need to say anything about how much of that is like a terrible idea. But at the same time, it's kind of like, it's interesting because her identity, the way that she views the world, is wrapped up in her megalomania. It's wrapped up in how she views herself, her classism, her belief that she is genetically superior to everybody, including her brother and her father. And it just kind of feels like this is an example of a generational curse or generational trauma, because her father wanted to fulfill the legacy of the Ashford family by making up for the mistakes of his father, who was making up for the mistakes of his father, and so on and so forth, because every single member of her family has been trying to please a long dead ancestor, Veronica, who shouldn't matter in the long sense, but it's been so ingrained into their DNA that they need to please her, that they need to further Ashford name, that they need to make sure that they continue the successes and legacy of Veronica, that at some point they've just lost sight of themselves. This is the moment we've all been waiting for. It's the moment in which we have to run away from a invincible or near invincible Steve. Like, he can be stunned extremely briefly with a grenade launcher, but I didn't bring that with me. But this is the moment in which we have to run away from him, and hopefully I will be able to do so. So I'm just doing a little bit of practice. Like, yeah, I can turn, sort of. Maybe I just need to run around him. Maybe that'll work. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. And then if it doesn't work, then I'll have to do it again.
Steve?
Oh, Claire.
No, I can't do it. Who did this to you?
That crazy woman told me she was gonna perform the same experiment on me that she did on her own father. She's completely insane.
What's wrong?
Claire! Can't breathe! Claire! Help me! Claire!
No, wait! Steve?
If there was a choice between drawing 25 cards in Uno or telling you guys how many times I died in this sequence, I would simply draw 25 cards. I will take that answer to my grave.
Oh, Steve.
You're warm.
Steve, you've got to hang in there, okay? My brother's come to save us. We're getting out of here.
Your brother kept his promise. I'm sorry I cannot.
What? What are you saying?
I'm glad that I met you. I love you, Claire.
Steve? Steve? Steve?
At last, I've found you, Alexia. Come with me. You're responsible for the creation of the T. Veronica virus. And now the only existing sample is in your body. I want it. Now!
You want it? You are not worthy of its power!
You're coming with me. Chris! Wesker. Chris, since you're one of my best men, I'll let you handle this.
Not gonna lie, the thing that popped up in my head when Steve told Claire that he loved her was the Phantom saying, "Christine, I love you," from the Broadway musical. Obviously, this isn't the last time that we see Alexia. We're more than likely going to have to fight her again at least like 6 more times because this is a Resident Evil game. And because it's a Resident Evil game, our escape is not guaranteed immediately after defeating the final boss. It's like with Tyrant, we had to worry about the facility exploding, and then we had to fight him one more time before we got into the helicopter and escaped. So for this case, we still have a lot of things left to do. We still have to go and meet up with Claire, who's like on the other side of this broken like balcony, and we have to get her out of the room because when we did the key card for where Steve was, the door immediately locked, and so there's no way for her to get out, at least without any intervention on our part. As another famous scientist would say, Alexander Ashford was preoccupied with whether he could, that he didn't stop to think about whether he should. Thankfully, the item box and the save room aren't very far from each other. Like, it feels like it, but they're not very far from each other. So we can definitely make our way to the item box to drop off some stuff so we can free up some space for the sterile key that's inside the save room and the first aid spray that's also there as well. Now that we've picked up the sterile key, we can take it back to the second set of double doors on the first floor and then basically just open up an alternate route to get to the lab hallway that has the tiger statue. Because once we turn off the power, we're not going to be able to go through some of the doors because they'll be basically locked down. They wouldn't have any power going to them, so we can't go through them. Also, side note, I just realized that this mansion, the way that it's set up, at least in this main entrance, looks very similar to how the mansion was set up in Resident Evil 1. Kind of had to let Chris stand here and breathe for a moment because, you know, we have a lot to do. There's a lot of things that we need to get accomplished before we fight Alexia again. And so it's a lot of, like I said, back and forth, running around, just revisiting areas that we've already gone to. But unfortunately, we're going to have to continue doing that in the next video because we're getting close to the end of this one. So thank you so much for joining us. Like I said, we only have one video left. This is the second to last video, and then the next video is the finale. And then after that, we're going to continue recording the casting of Frank Stone. The next game after the casting of Frank Stone is Revelations. I think Revelations is about a 10+ hour game. It could be less than that. It's been a very long time since I've looked up how long it is. But that one's probably going to go through the rest of September after we finish with the casting of Frank Stone and into probably November. And then after that is Resident Evil 5, which we're just going to continue playing through Resident Evil 5 through the rest of the year and into the new year. And then afterwards, I have to make a decision, I guess, on which Resident Evil I'm going to play next. Am I going to play 6? Or am I going to play Revelations 2 and then play 6? Because then after that, there's only really 3 other games we got to do after Revelations 1 and Resident Evil 5. So with that being said, thank you so much again for joining us, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!